Welcome to Stories from the River. I'm here with my great friend, Vonder Haar, Dr. V, flown in from Jackson, Mississippi.
Join Charlie Maloof as he explores the personal journeys of Broad River Retail's very own memory makers. Welcome to Stories from the River.
Hey, we're here with Dr. V for Stories from the River. You ready to go?
I am ready to go.
Let's get going. What brings you here today, Dr. V?
Well, certainly my good friend Charlie, but it's been pretty exciting. You guys actually started to do a bedding summit this particular week, and part of the topics was sleep, and sleep is my passion. So you kind of reached out and said, hey, can you come share a few ideas with our memory makers? And I was like, absolutely. So I flew on in here to kind of share some ideas.
Now, this isn't the first time you've flown in with us, and you used some really interesting words there. I think that was pretty intentional. Thank you for calling our people memory makers.
Absolutely.
It is our first in-person sleep summit in 3 years.
Wow, it's been 3 years.
It's been 3 years. It's been so great to roll all of our retail people through 3 days. They've gotten to choose one of 5 sessions. The sessions are about 4.5 hours each. We feed them, and we give them drinks and prizes and raffles. And so that's been going on. And you and Caleb have flown in to, Caleb Caruth have flown in to hang out with us. And then Stacy said, hey, also we're going to do a retail excellence meeting in person. And we're going to focus it on the topic of selling sleep in parallel with our sleep summit. Now, retail excellence and RX meeting is like a prescription for how we go win the month or the rest of the year, et cetera, the next quarter. And it's with all of our retail leaders. And so he said, we want a keynote speaker, Charlie. And so the first thing that came to my mind, he said, speaking to all of our retail leaders on a topic about sleep, I said, what about Dr. V? You've got to call Dr. V. And you said you would do it. So we're so grateful that you're here, and you gave a phenomenal talk earlier to our team. And I want to unpack that and get into that. And so welcome to Stories from the River.
Thank you. I am delighted to be here and excited to be a part of your journey and what you guys are doing at Broad River Retail.
And I've listened to all of your podcasts before. We're going to put all of the ones you've done with Dos Marcos. I think you've been on there 3 times. And with Bill McLaughlin from Furniture Today. I think you've been on there once. I've listened to all of your podcasts. Matter of fact, the first time I heard you with Bill Laughlin on your podcast, coming back from like a ribbon cutting or a grand opening we had in Four Oaks, I called you on the drive back and I said, this is phenomenal. We're doing a leadership summit or a purpose summit. Can you come talk to our folks? And we agreed and worked that out. And so this isn't the first time you've come to the river to come speak to us.
Now, that was actually about 3 years ago, 8/28, if I remember correctly. And it was all about purpose, just realizing that there's more to life and that you really need to have a purpose in what we do, and more importantly, why we do it. And so at that point, I was able to come in and really talk about the science of selling healthy sleep. I've now expanded that particular topic, but back then, a couple of years ago, it was all about really finding our purpose, because you know, Charlie, it's not about the mattress.
No, not at all.
It's about the way you sleep.
And it was we were in our year of purpose, and when I heard you talking about the science of selling sleep with purpose, I was like, this is perfect. This is a great topic. But you used an interesting word earlier. I don't know if you did that intentionally or not. You talked about our bedding summit. It's not a bedding summit.
No, as a matter of fact, you're right. You know, that is an interesting concept, because that's kind of a little bit of the debate that's now in our industry. Do we call it bedding? Do we call it mattresses? Do we call it sleep? Yeah, I intentionally called it a bedding, hoping you might call me out on that. In reality, it's a sleep summit.
It's a sleep summit.
Overall, that's what I prefer it to be, because I think that puts the focus where it really needs to be, and that we can focus literally on our guest and what their needs are and how they are sleeping. All that just makes a huge difference when we make them the focus of our presentation and not the mattress the focus of our presentation.
Absolutely. So I've often said and described you in this way: everything I know about marketing, merchandising, or selling sleep or mattresses, I learned from you many, many years ago. And you've had such a profound impact on my life and my business career, and you've become such a great friend. I love collaborating with you. I love your positivity and your energy and your ideation and your ideas. And so I really want to unpack what you guys are doing at Miskelly. This is really unique. We're an Ashley Home Store licensee, and you guys are a multi-line shop, and you have your own sleep stores, but you're from my hometown, and we collaborate, and there's some family connection with my former business partner and his uncles, and we love Oscar and Tommy and Caleb, the Miskellys and the Miskelly sons, and Elizabeth Ann and the entire family, and you guys are just doing phenomenal things. And so I want to get into all that, but let's go back a little bit further. How long have you been in the industry?
Well, let's see. I was 22 years old, and I was graduating from college, and I went and bought a waterbed. And while I was there buying a waterbed, I decided that I wanted to work for the waterbed store. And so I was 22 years old. I was in college and started selling waterbeds when I graduated, got a little bit more involved, and went to a little waterbed convention down in New Orleans. And so I got a late start leaving New Orleans. I drove about 3 hours, landed in Jackson, Mississippi. And I woke up the next day, and I was just young and eager, and I was going to go to all the waterbed stores in Jackson, Mississippi, and discovered there were none. And so all the way back to St. Louis, Missouri, where I'm originally from, for 8-9 hours, I thought I should open up a waterbed store. And so in 1984, I literally got in my car, drove to Jackson, Mississippi, and opened up a waterbed store, and pun intended, rode that wave for like 10 years, from 84 to 94.
That's incredible. That's when you were 22 years old?
I was 22 years old.
I wonder if you had been shopping for a Harley, if you would have decided you wanted to buy
it's a good point. It's, who knows what direction I would have taken it at that point. I didn't know for sure. But the interesting thing, going back even just a tad bit further, is I had known a little bit about waterbeds. I had a waterbed when I was actually in high school at that point. And I remember that I had to do a research paper. You know how we all have all these different events that happen in our lives, Charlie? So I must have been probably at this point maybe 19 or 20. It was a college class. It was an English class. And I had to write a paper, an informative type of paper. And I wrote it on waterbeds. And I was a pretty good student. But when I got my first draft back, I got an F. And it was truly impactful. I was not used to getting Fs on my work. And the teacher said that it was all one-sided. And this was a summer school class. And because I had gone to all the different head shops, as they were called back then, that were selling waterbeds. And so all of my information wasn't really balanced. And so I got irritated. And I was like, I'm not going to accept this. And so I went to Washington University's medical library. And I spent an entire summer researching everything I could learn, medically speaking, about flotation sleep. Rewrote the paper, came back. Not only did I get an A, but years later when I was interviewing for the job at the waterbed store, I realized that I almost knew more about flotation sleep than the owner of the company, Denny Boyd. It was Boyd. Royal Waterbeds was the name of it back then. And Denny Boyd and I got into this whole conversation about the medical needs of waterbeds. And as a result, I landed the job, and that set me on the direction where I am today.
That is a fascinating story, and it ties into so much. Like, you took a failure, a literal failure, and turned it into an A. So we talk all the time about, what's our perspective is in Maxwell talks about failing forward. That's his new book, and winning or losing. But he says, no, reframe that as winning or learning. And you literally went and learned.
I did. It literally made a difference and an impact, and set me on a trajectory that I would never have thought was going to happen. When I was in college and I was graduating, I graduated with a business degree, I always thought that I was going to go corporate America on the West Coast. I have no idea why. And I ended up, as soon as I graduated, owning a waterbed company in Jackson, Mississippi, a state I had never even been in before.
Well, I mean, you're in St. Louis, and there's the gateway to the West.
It is.
So maybe that's why. And I'm wondering, since you're wearing it, for those of you who are on the YouTube, watching this on YouTube, you will see that Dr. V is wearing a lab coat. Now, are you a real doctor? Maybe you learned how to be a doctor from doing this medical research? I mean, I don't know. Now I understand it a little bit better.
Yeah, well, I wish I could say that I was, but no, I am not a real doctor, but I do play one on TV. So years ago, this is going back, well, I've been at Miskelly Furniture, which is a retailer down in Jackson, Mississippi. We have 4 main furniture stores, multi-line. We have 2 actual mattress sleep stores, and we also have 1 clearance center. So we have 7 locations total. But one of the things that way back when is, and it's really kind of funny about the lab coat, okay, because it's a marketing thing. Back then, we actually carried a mattress brand called Simmons Mattresses, and they were real big on their individual pocketed coils. And the guy that did the national commercials was a guy named Rudy, and he wore a lab coat because it was going to be very scientific. He dropped a bowling ball on the mattress, the whole scenario. So for Christmas one year, the owners of the company got me a lab coat because I was big on selling mattresses at the time. And it was supposed to be a joke. It was a Christmas prank type joke. But then one of the owners, Chip Miskelly at the time, said, you know what? We can market that idea. So I literally just started doing commercials for Miskelly's back in the 90s. I have now been there 28 years doing this and wearing the lab coat, but I do all of the mattress advertising. So I always say, no, I'm not a real doctor, but I do play one on TV.
You absolutely do. And you also use it when you're in the stores too, right?
Absolutely. And because of how much advertising I've done over the years, it's amazing. I can literally drive through Wendy's and people will recognize the voice when I place my order. You're like, oh, you're that sleep guy.
Yeah.
And I take that as one of the biggest compliments.
That's amazing. Well, you're very well known across the nation and the country as being a sleep specialist. And thanks for taking us through your story and from the waterbeds to Miskelly's, 38 years in the industry. Phenomenal. Does it still intrigue you?
I love it.
What do you
Every day.
What do you love about it?
I love that we have the ability to impact the lives of our guests.
That's powerful.
And it's so true. It's interesting. Human beings are the only species on the planet that intentionally cuts themselves short of sleep. No other species does that.
They sleep as much as they need to.
Exactly. Like cats, dogs, doesn't
17,
matter.
18 hours a day.
Whatever they need to do. But humans don't. As a matter of fact, one of the biggest challenges we have now with us as a species is what I call me time. Meaning that when you finally get ready to go to sleep, you decide that now it's going to be about me. The kids are down, the work is done, whatever the case might be, and now I either want to go on Facebook or TikTok, or I want to watch a TV show, or I even want to just read a book. But I will do those activities that rather than go to sleep, because now I want to be about me. And as a result, I will shortchange the quantity and the quality of sleep that I could be entitled to.
It's so important. So what has changed though with from waterbeds to the Simmons mattresses, the coils, the individually wrapped coils, to where we are today with all the grid, different foams, or is it foam? Is it temper material? What are your favorite brands? How is the product changed? And then let's talk about how the customer shopping has changed, and then we'll get into the sales aspect of it. So how's the product changed, and is it better?
Well, it is substantially better because for the first time, for example, back in the 80s when waterbeds were very, very popular, and I had my waterbed company from 84 to 94. But the reason why waterbeds don't exist anymore is because the mattress manufacturers finally realized they actually had to make comfortable mattresses. The early days of Sealy, it was firm, firmer, and firmest.
Yeah.
And that was the concept, and it was a commodity purchase. However, the industry has really started to move along, and that's when the introduction of pillow tops came out in the mid-90s because they wanted to make mattresses more comfortable, and eventually that's actually what kind of killed off flotation sleep. So I think there's been a real movement in terms of understanding that the surface that we sleep on has impact on our quality and quantity of sleep. For example, when you start to fall asleep at night, when you finally get into that stage that, hey, I'm going to go ahead and snuggle into this mattress. I'm turning off the TV. I'm putting down the book, whatever it might be. You kind of get into your favorite position. Well, let me ask you, what's your favorite position? When you get into that mode, Charlie, what's the position that is most favorite for you?
Well, I thought I was interviewing you.
I
on
know,
this
I'm
podcast.
sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. I'm a side sleeper.
You're a side sleeper, left or right?
Typically on my right side.
On your right
but I'll
side.
switch it up about 10 or 20% of the time.
Yeah, I get it. And we do, a lot of us will do that kind of changing back and forth, and it's actually quite normal. About 75, 80% of us are actually side sleepers. So you're right in the norm. Well, that's information that's actually kind of worth knowing if I was going to sell you a mattress going down the road. But as you start to settle in and you go into that first stage of sleep, that kind of falling asleep, your body temperature starts to drop. And that's important to put you into a state of sleep, which is the reason why if the environment in your room is too hot and uncomfortable, you will toss and turn, flip back and forth, kick off the sheets, all of those kind of things, and it won't be near as restful for you. Well, we now have mattresses that have cooling covers. They're cool to the touch. We have pillows that are cool to the touch. And all of that helps in transition to sleep. And so the quality of the products, and you were talking about the foams, and there are a variety of out there, different types of foams and springs, and now even with purple, which they call the grid. It's all designed to give you a sleeping surface that has more comfort, which helps you to fall asleep, but also designed to give you also support that helps you stay asleep and wake up feeling recovered and refreshed the next morning. So the companies I think that do that best, I do think that Tempur-Pedic, which is what I personally sleep on, is one of the finest mattresses out there.
Which one?
In particular, I'm a Lux Breeze individual. Happens to be their top of the line, but I love it because they have designed a mattress that literally is not only cool to the touch, but it remains cool all night long, literally up to 8 degrees. And because of my knowledge of sleep and how important temperature is in that, that's a mattress that I chose to sleep on. And I can sleep on anything, but that's the one. But like Purple's come out with the Grid, which is now temperature neutral. So it's neither hot nor cold because it has airflow involved in it. Stearns is a great traditional mattress, been around for 150 years. Then you look at Sealy.
My wife, sorry to interrupt, my wife and I, we sleep on a Stearns pillow top.
Really?
Yeah, oh yeah.
How long have you been sleeping on it?
Many years.
So why'd you choose it?
You know, my wife wasn't comfortable going with a Tempur-Pedic or one like that. So, and it's comfortable. It supports us well. So it's a cushion firm pillow top.
Nice. Nice. I love that. And I think that's just it. That's the concept of choice. I always say comfort's in the behind of the beholder.
Yeah.
And I'm a firm believer in that. So I think it's important that you be comfortable with whatever that surface is. But even the new mattresses, like what you're seeing coming out from Ashley, that, I mean, you guys do a great job with. They're value-minded mattresses. They're not the most expensive. And so for that customer who wants to be a little bit more conservative on the dollars, they are great values at their price points.
Absolutely. So let's go into, like, you've got new material you came to present to us. It's fresh off the press.
Yes.
And I just sat through the presentation and took copious amounts of notes. What's the main topic of what you wanted to present to our retail leaders today?
Well, the name of the presentation was, How Did You Sleep Last Night? Okay. I love that topic because it's all about sleep. It's all about you and your recent experience. So the title itself works, How Did You Sleep Last Night? But it actually goes deeper than that. So here's the deal. We know that our memory makers will have conversations with our guests. But if we don't teach them what that conversation should look like and what it should be, they will come up with that conversation on their own. And unfortunately, if they don't have the knowledge and training, they'll talk about things that may not be important. They will focus on themselves and not on the guest. You asked earlier what's changing. Well, the guest is way more educated than ever before due to research. And so that whole buying experience is totally different. It used to be where the guest would come into our stores and we were the experts, and they would come to us for information and guidance. They don't need that anymore. They have this thing called the internet. You may have heard of it.
Al Gore had something to do with that?
Exactly. Al Gore designed it. But yeah, so they don't need us for that reason. What they need us to be is more consultants. You know, it used to be ABC, always be closing. Now it's ABC, always be consulting. We need to come along inside. But here's the whole concept of consulting. Consulting is focused on you, not me. Doesn't matter what comfort I like. What matters is what comfort you like. And so my whole purpose of meeting with your leaders today and for them to transfer information onto your actual memory makers was quite simple. Let's focus on them as an individual and their sleep experience. The challenge is that the title isn't enough. How did you sleep last night doesn't go deep enough. I'll ask you, Charlie, how did you sleep last night?
I actually slept pretty well last night.
Yeah, and unfortunately, that's information that doesn't help me.
It doesn't help you at
It
all.
sounds good, but now what do I do with that?
It sounds like I don't need a new mattress.
Exactly. You told me you slept well last night. So one of the things that I want to talk about and try to really get our memory makers and our leaders to understand that if we're talking about sleep is there's really 3 areas. And I call it fall, stay, feel.
Let's fall,
stay,
feel.
Absolutely.
Okay.
You got it.
What do you mean
I
by
might
that?
make a memory maker out of you, Charlie.
You might. That'd be great.
The first one is, how did you fall asleep last night? And this is going to talk about, like we talked before, about your preferred position. It's going to be talking about what are the activities you do right before you go to sleep, watch TV. We're going to have this whole idea of transition to sleep. Setting up the stage, the environment. If you're sensitive to light, you can actually, have those blackout curtains.
I've heard that those are really, really important, and to go as dark as possible in the room and as cool as possible in the room as well, like you were saying.
Well, so when we talk about the stages of sleep, and I won't go too deep here, but there are really 4 stages of sleep. There's REM sleep, non-REM sleep. Non-REM sleep has 3 stages, stages 1, 2, and 3. 3 being the deepest stage that there is. Okay, really difficult for you to wake up during that stage.
I think that's my son Luke.
I get it. Yeah, that's when people are quote dead to the world as they talk about.
That's definitely my son Luke.
Yeah. Well, it only represents about 20 to 25% of your sleep throughout a given night. And
Except for Luke, he's
except
about
for Luke.
99%.
Yeah, he gets a little more than that. Well, what happens there is that 75 to 80% of the time that you are actually asleep, you are actually in a lighter stage of sleep. You're either in N1, a light stage, which is the lightest, N2, which is still a light stage, or REM sleep. REM sleep, as we know, is rapid eye movement. That's the stage where the brain's in beast mode and you're having vivid dreams and all those kind of things that are happening, but you're actually very close to being awake. And as a result of that, external stimuli can now disturb that sleep. And so when we talk about someone being sensitive to light, 80% of the time throughout the night, if someone flips the light on in your bedroom, it could wake you up. If your partner gets in and out of the bed to go to the restroom, it can wake you up. If a dog barks outside, it can wake you up. And so what we want to do is have products and materials and features and benefits that help aid in that sleep process.
So you talked about fall, and now you also talked about stay.
Exactly. So we need to change the conversation. And if I just ask you how you slept last night, it's not deep enough. So the first one, as we talked about, is how did you fall asleep? But then I might actually ask you a few questions on how did you stay asleep? Are you the type of person that sleeps all night long? Or are you the type of person that kind of gets disturbed through the night? And if I say that, let me ask you, are you the type of person that sleeps all night long, or do you sometimes get disturbed through the night?
On my best nights, I'll sleep all night long.
Right.
But probably I'm getting up to go to the restroom at least once.
Yeah, and a lot of that has to do with your fluid intake after 6 p.m. And I don't have to be a real sleep expert. I don't have to know everything, but I can know some basics on the way I can consult with you. And so I want to have a conversation about how you stay asleep throughout the night. And then, of course, the next word is feel. How did you feel when you woke up this morning?
Yeah, and so if I felt like sore, or if my neck was sore, that might tie into like, do I have the right spinal alignment or the right support layer? So what are you looking for based off the answers of those 3 things? What are you looking for? How do you tie that into putting them in the right sleep system?
Well, that's exactly it. So the areas that you just mentioned them, there's comfort, there's support, there's pressure relief, and there's temperature. Those are the 4 big factors that affect the quality and the quantity of sleep that you get every night. But the cool thing is those are the biggest features of our sleep systems that we sell. Comfort, support, pressure relief, and temperature. And so if I'm talking about the Breeze technology that is 8 degrees cooler all night long, Well, that's significant if I'm talking to someone who's a hot sleeper. And if they're not, then I can talk about just some of the more cooling aspects, because some mattresses have cooling covers, help you in transition to sleep. If we're talking about body alignment and support and the way that the mattress comes up and supports the lower back, unfortunately, there are a lot of people that wake up with aches and pains. And when we talk about back pain, what we're really talking about is the muscles that contract around the spine. And when those muscles get super tight, because here's the goal. Your body wants your spine to be in a straight line between your shoulders and your hips when you sleep at night. And if you're out of line, your muscles contract around the spine, try to pull it back into place. And it's that contraction back is what causes you to have those lower back pains. So if I can align you properly on the right type of mattress, your muscles can relax. If I put you on one of the power bases or lifestyle bases, or quite simply an adjustable base, slight elevation of your legs takes your pelvic bone and tilts it back. It gives you more natural curvature of your spine, takes that pressure away. It allows you to stay in one position so you don't have to toss and turn. Every time you toss and turn can disturb your sleep pattern. More importantly, slight elevation of the head will actually open up your airwaves. It can minimize snoring, which is a huge deal.
Oh, yeah.
Well, it's a huge deal for the partner. The person that's actually doing the snoring, they don't have a clue.
Well, you played a video of yourself, or audio
I
of yourself.
did. I actually am one of those weird people that actually records myself every night. And so I get to hear my snoring.
So you talked about fall, stay, and feel,
Right.
and they tie into comfort and pressure points and temperature and things of that nature. And then you also talked about earlier today in our presentation the deep sleep versus REM versus non-REM, and what your body's trying to do, the mental restoration versus the physical restoration. Can you just give us a little bit of nugget?
Yeah, absolutely. So the real value is the way the body works, and it's really pretty simple. When you start to fall asleep, you go into what we call non-REM stage 1. Back in the 1930s, they discovered that the mind went through different stages of sleep. And then in the 1950s, they also discovered that the mind was really active, which was a real surprise, because they always thought that sleep was just a passive mode, and that not much happened. In reality, that's not true. So they came up with REM, rapid eye movement, and non-REM. Now, I can't say these scientists were very creative in their descriptions, but so you have non-REM 1, 2, and 3. 1 is a very light stage of sleep, easily woken up. Stage 2 takes you a little bit deeper. Your body temperature, core body temperature starts to decrease. At this point, your muscles start to relax. Your breathing actually slows down. Your eyes are closed. They quit moving. And so you're in a stage 2, still a light stage of sleep, but important. Then you go into stage 3. This is beautiful. This is deep sleep. This is that slow wave type sleep. You're in a big delta brain waves. This is where you're basically going to be in a position where the body takes over. More blood flows to the muscles at this point, and it is all about recovery. This is the deepest stage of sleep, and so the body will repair at this point. They will repair the muscles, the bones, the tissues. It's all about repair at this point in recovery. It is the stage that athletes want to be able to get to. So if you're disturbed, and before you get, because understand that once you get to deep sleep, now the great thing is it's really hard to wake you up at this point. But you want to get as enough deep sleep as you have, and it's longer at the beginning of the night, because we go through these different cycles throughout the night, and it gets shorter or non-existent towards morning time.
Okay.
So you want to get into that deep sleep.
And then that's the physical restoration.
That's correct.
And what's the mental restoration?
Well, that's the next stage. And it's really not the next stage, because the body doesn't just go in a circle.
Right.
It actually goes back up from deep sleep. It'll go to non-REM 2, another light stage, and then it'll go up. But eventually it gets up to this REM sleep. Okay, the brain's in beast mode at this point. Neurons are firing off, blood pressure goes up, heart rate actually increases, all while you're sleeping. And this is where you have the most vivid of dreams. You're actually almost this close to being awake, and you're easily woken up if you're in the REM stage. This is when most people are really coming up with dreams that make no sense to them at all. The imagery is really there. But what happens is short-term memory gets converted to long-term memory. So this is where you actually learn. As a matter of fact, I told your group today that if they don't get enough REM sleep tonight, they may forget everything I taught them today because that part of it. But the cool thing is the way God designed us. Because as much as your brain is firing on all cylinders and your eyes are moving back and forth in your head, the only other muscle that moves is your diaphragm that allows you to breathe. The entire rest of the body is paralyzed. Paralyzed. No movement of feet, arms, hands, legs, nothing. And we believe that God designed us that way so we don't act out our dreams, so we wouldn't be like running in our sleep. And most sleep disorders like sleepwalking, restless leg syndromes, they don't happen in REM sleep. They actually happen in stage 3 or that deep sleep.
That is fascinating. What would you say to someone who has a partner who sleepwalks? Don't answer that question.
Yeah, crazy question. I wish I knew all those answers.
This is fascinating.
I'm not
stuff.
a real doctor. I just play one on TV.
We got it. Maybe we should consult a real doctor. Well, you get way into the technology, and I see that you're wearing a sleep tracker, and you talked about that. I've been thinking about getting this. What are you wearing here?
So this is what we call a whoop.
A whoop,
right?
whoop bracelet.
It's not there's no watch. There's nothing. You can I know people have Apple Watches and sorts of different things. I think what's the one with the ring? I know it's also
Aura.
Yeah, there is a ring that you can wear. Basically, because of when the body goes through these different stages of sleep, your heart rate, your pulse rate, your breathing all changes, and there is distinct attributes that happen in those stages. And so one of the things that they are focused on is that it tracks it all day and all night. And because of that, it can determine the different stages. Now, out of fairness, it's not near as accurate if I put like electrodes to my head, okay? But it's about 70, 80% accurate.
Have you found that you've improved your sleep by using it and being aware of the metrics?
Yeah, I have. Because I track it every night. I know that I need to get about 20 to 25% of deep sleep. I know I need to get 20 to 25% of REM sleep.
Oh, wow.
And because of that, I know that I've got to give myself an opportunity to sleep long enough. I've not used an alarm clock in years. I know that generally speaking, I'm going to go to sleep between 11 and 11:30, and I'm going to wake up between 7 and 7:30.
That's fascinating.
Every single day, even on the weekends. Because why? The mind and the body love regularity. It is the number one thing people can do to improve their sleep is to get regular. Go to bed at the same time, wake up at the same time, even on the weekends, and you will find that the quality and quantity of your sleep, because there are going to be disturbances and you're going to wake up throughout the night. You're going to lose an hour. So if I only give myself 7 hours opportunity, then I realize that I'm only going to get about 6 hours of actual good quality sleep.
Well, we've hit on so many topics on the science of selling sleep, and it's so important. I'm listening and hearing and reading so much, like well-known people like Ariana Huffington is really talking about the power of sleep. And Dr. Andrew Huberman from the Huberman Lab podcast, he really extols a lot of the same virtues that you do about no caffeine, no alcohol after a certain time, and making the room really dark, taking the temperature down, and going to bed at the exact same time, and being super regular about that. All critically important. And what you're talking about with the products and the technology, just having such a big impact on our health, and this certainly you're passionate about it. I want to hit maybe 2 more quick topics there, and then I want to pivot to just other elements of the business. We haven't really touched on bases. You mentioned this earlier. Are they adjustable bases, lifestyle bases, power bases, just things that move up and down?
Well, I can tell you that I'm not as concerned about what label you give it. I'm really concerned that you show it. It has a tremendous impact on a person's quality of sleep. We've got a starter model, which is just a heads-up only base that we use at Miskelly's. And we actually call it the anti-snore base. Because to me, the biggest feature that it does is not just allow you to watch TV at night, but it really allows you to open up your breathing. Something as little as 12 degrees is enough to kind of open up the airwaves to minimize snoring. So I'm not really concerned whether you call it a power base or lifestyle, or even just an adjustable base, depending on what the customer can relate to. But what I am concerned about is that in every single presentation, at Miskelly's, we kind of have a rule. Every single presentation, feet rise. because I want to say another feature of this mattress is that the feet can rise. So to me, the power base, the adjustable base, it is part of the sleep system. It enhances the quality of our sleep. And I do want to touch on one thing here that what we're talking about here. I don't expect memory makers to know as much about all the different stages of sleep. They should know that deep sleep regenerates the body, that REM sleep regenerates the mind and helps in learning. Those are kind of some basics kind of thing. But they really need to focus on the guest. At the end of the day, it's what's going on in your sleep, Charlie, that I need to know about. And then as you tell me things, I can match up your needs, wants, and desires for a better night's sleep with the products that I have.
Yeah, is this where you were kind of talking about, and maybe this is where we get the bad stereotype with mattress salesmen or saleswomen, like the used car salesman. But you said take it away from selling to assistant buying, I think is how you described it. Is that what you're talking about here?
Absolutely. The reality is we as people, we hate to be sold. If I feel like you're trying to sell me something, and that's what's happened in our industry for so long, we put people in mattress stores or furniture stores, we don't properly train them. A lot of times they're on commission, which means, they're going to go ahead and try to, quote, force the sale. They're going to try to sell them products that they may or may not want. And that's mainly because they never connected with the guest. And so I think people hate to be sold on any product. But on the flip side of that, we love to buy. We love to buy things. We're Americans.
Especially if they help us sleep better, feel better.
Exactly. Yeah. And so I say, don't be a salesperson, be an assistant buyer. But that's an attitudinal shift. That means I'm no longer trying to sell you. I am now going to have an attitude where I'm going to come alongside you. Now, you and I together are going to find out which products I carry match up to what your needs, wants, and desires, how you're sleeping at night. And when I can start to do that, I don't have to worry about my competition because you won't leave.
That's right. We have this thing called butts on beds. We call it Bob. To sell mattresses, make sure you get comfort tests. You said something earlier. Comfort is in the
behind the beholder. For years, we always would, guests would come in and we say, "Do you like a firm or a soft bed?" And no matter what answer they give you, it's a bad question, because then you have the reference for what you think is firm or soft and not what the guest thinks is firm or soft. So it's a really bad question because I think comfort is in the behind of the beholder.
So really a lot of what you're talking about is we have to ask more intelligent questions that position us as that assistant buyer as opposed to something that's just going to not serve the conversation well at all. How do you sleep last night?
Well, and that's just it. We're not looking for an interrogation of our guests.
Right.
We're looking for conversation.
That's right.
Because when you and I start having conversation, and I learn a little bit about you and what your needs are, and you learn a little bit from me about what products I have that can help those. Now we're having conversation that is about you, but you are different than the next guest. So it actually can become easier to be able to connect with the guests the more that you do it, because I don't have to talk about coil counts or other weird features that you have no interest in. I can instead focus on you.
Well, now I want to make sure my wife watches this because I want to talk about an adjustable base and want our legs to rise, and get the oxygen improved with the head rising.
Do you not have an adjustable base?
We don't.
My.
Yeah, I know.
Charlie.
I know. Super traditional over here.
My.
Don't have an adjustable base.
Stearns & Foster will work on a power base.
I understand that. We don't have a Tempur-Pedic. We don't have a Purple. We have a Stearns & Foster on a flat foundation.
So you're still sleeping on one of those flat mattresses. My.
Yeah,
I've heard of people that did that.
We may have to edit this
usually
part.
In history books.
May have to edit this part out. Yeah. And so, but then you mentioned the sleep tracker. And so now I know that why I need to have one, because I need to monitor and if you don't measure it, you can't improve it. And now I need to understand how much deep sleep I'm getting, how much REM sleep I'm getting, and how that's going to serve me well. And so make sure I'm not waking up too early. I've been waking up earlier and earlier. So, which So as humans, we're the only species who cuts our sleep short. So I need to really dig into that. And then just to complete the sleep system, there's things about, you hear about mattresses and that they're the 30% of the comfort or the support. You hear about different type of mattress protectors, and then there's weighted blankets. Just help us debunk that just a little bit on sleep accessories and what your position is on some of those.
Well, I think sleep accessories are exactly that. They accessorize the sleep system. Let's start with the big one, and that's pillow. Pillow is a bed for your head. I don't know any other way to describe it. 25% of our spine actually is from our shoulders up in terms of our spine. But more importantly than that, it supports the head. Now, we have pillows like from Bed Gear, which is one of your vendors, that has a material that will not absorb body heat. So it feels cool to the touch. Well, that is an amazing product to help you fall asleep at night. When you lay on it, it is cool to the touch. So it has that cool sensation. It doesn't stay cold all night long, but it helps you to start to have that core temperature drop. So it helps in transition to sleep. So and if your neck is properly aligned, because there's a curve there, just like there's a curve in your back, it requires that proper alignment and support. Your mattress protectors, they either have one that are also cool to the touch to make it cooler, because once again, you can't fall asleep till your core body temperature starts to drop. That is a physiological aspect of you falling asleep. So we got products that can speed that up for you, help you out in that area. But also mattress protectors are also designed to kind of wick away moisture, because as your body temperature drops, you are now releasing heat. And so that heat has to go somewhere. And if not, it'll cause you to get a little sweaty. And so if you have fabrics in your mattress protectors that wick away that, it's a cool, more comfortable, more restful night's sleep. And that really just and the sheets the same way. You want them to be breathable. I mean, there are so many different ways to really complete the sleep system that ultimately gives you a better night's sleep.
Got it. Super helpful. I want to shift gears completely.
Okay.
With the time we have left on this conversation. And thanks so much for taking the time to do this.
You're so welcome.
What are you working on this year? What's Miskelly? What are your goals?
We want to connect more with our guest. I mean, that is really the foremount of what we're doing.
Okay.
We know that COVID came and there was a real burst in business, and the consumer demand really went up. We sense that there might be a little bit of pullback now that COVID's kind of over.
That's fair.
And we sense that in our industry. And so what's going to make the difference? The difference is going to be how we connect with our guests.
Love that.
There may be a few less opportunities in terms of traffic, so we got to make most out of those opportunities. So our whole focus at Miskelly's is how do we develop those relationships? Get away from just selling and make it relationship selling. Build those relationships. We know that the average person may spend $50,000 to $80,000 in their lifetime on home furnishings, and we want to be the source of that in Central Mississippi.
And I would even say we can go upstream just a little bit further to use the Heath Brothers concept on connecting with our guests. If we connect with our people, then they can go connect with our guests. And that's the whole purpose of the Sleep Summit and training and connecting in person. What do you think about the Sleep Summit? You got to sit in on some of the sessions.
I loved it. I loved it. So the Sleep Summit itself was, you had 4 major vendors that had come in, Temper Sealy, Purple, Bed Gear, and Ashley, and they all got to present their products, and I was very proud of the way that they presented them. They were not what I call spec and tech, which is the way they would have been done in the past. Hey, here are all just our features, but it was way more about how these can benefit our guests, and I love those presentations. And for you to bring in your entire Memory Maker staff to have that type of learning. But then I got to meet with your leaders today and share some of the things that we've talked about on this podcast. And it's not how much they retain, but how much they're able to pass on to the memory makers. And they were fully engaged and taking notes and asking questions. And so the company that Broad River Retail is becoming, and the focus, and I know everybody knows it, but furnishing life's best memories, that's all about connecting.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's beautiful.
And it's for other people.
Yes.
That's what we like to say. Thank you for that. And thank you again for coming to the Sleep Summit and speaking to our leaders. So I like this icebreaker question, and I know we're like 45 minutes into the conversation. You've had a great 38-year career, and you're going to have several more years, and then maybe you'll come help us some more. I don't know.
Yes, but I always say when Miss Kelly fires me,
which they're not going to do.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
At least I don't plan on that anyway. But
I love our collaboration, our relationship that we have back and forth here. At the end of your days, when you're sitting on your front porch in Jackson, Mississippi, and drinking some sweet tea, and reflecting back on your career and how you remembered the legacy, the impact that you left on people, what 3 words do you want them to remember you for? What comes to mind? What are the first 3 words that come to mind?
Wow.
I feel this helps us get to know someone and how they want to be thought of.
Yeah, and it would be easy to say my faith and family, and all those would be true.
And that's okay.
I'm not saying there's anything wrong with those. Yeah. Don't get me wrong. I was fortunate. I was saved at. I grew up Catholic. But
so
I wasn't.
did I.
Yeah, but I wasn't truly saved until I was in my 20s.
Okay.
And so that had a real impact. So clearly, my faith is important to me. My family is important. Matter of fact, I got my first granddaughter a couple of months ago, and so family is important. But I like to be known also as a teacher. To me, I want to be able to share and impact lives. So impact would probably be a word that would come to my mind. Mm-hmm. I want to know that I gave your folks just a little something today that makes them just a little bit better tomorrow. And I do that every day. I wake up passionate about this industry and about what I can accomplish at Miss Kelly Furniture. Somebody asked me the other day, when are you going to retire? And I was like, no clue.
You love what you do too much.
I do, exactly. Why would I deny myself that opportunity?
Well, you've definitely had an impact on me for many, many years, and on our people through several events. And I can definitely see teacher. And for the third one, we can use faith, or we can use family, or we can give you 5 or 6 words. We can. So we can just use doctor too.
We could. Dr. V, though I'm not a real one. I just play one on TV.
You play a really good one on television.
Oh, thank you.
What advice would you give someone who's starting off in sales and struggling with selling mattresses? If they said, hey, help me out. What do I need? What am I doing wrong? Or what advice would you?
Yeah, there's no magic pill, okay? There's no magic phrase. If I tried to do that, then I would try to be selling something. Mm-hmm. Notice that everything we've talked about here is that I understand you first before I try to match up what products that I have. So here's the thing. Salespeople will do what they are confident in, and they will not do what they are not confident in. Now, I know that sounds like that's so simple, but it's not. For example, if I don't understand the different power bases that you have, I don't know what the remote does, I don't know where the buttons are, guess what I do? I avoid that presentation because I don't want to look stupid in front of a customer.
Nobody wants to look stupid.
Exactly.
And you're not an assistant buyer at that point.
If I don't have the confidence, all right, then I avoid it because I don't want to look stupid. On the flip side of that, if I'm confident and know about it, then I don't have any problems telling you about it. So one, I would say as a new associate, you got to get the confidence, and the confidence comes through training and learning. And once again, there's this thing called the internet. There's YouTube. It is an amazing source of information that is out there, as well as other sales associates that have been down this path that can teach you and your reps and everything else. So first, I would understand that as a sales associate, you want to be confident in your knowledge. Not that you want to share it all, but that you have it, because that gives you the confidence. And then more importantly, you realize that, and I love this from Zig Ziglar, you can get everything in life you want if you just help enough other people get what they want. And if you have that type of servant attitude, when you are actually in a sales position, it's an extremely honorable position, because now you're that assistant buyer, because it is focused where the focus should be, and that is on the guests that have entered into our place of business, and all we're trying to do is to help and serve.
I think that's probably a great place to end this conversation. That's very well said. Is there anything else you want to share? Anything else that we haven't discussed?
I'm thankful for what Broad River Retail is doing and the changes that you have made and the focus that you've had in the industry. The very idea that we are changing the conversation and that you're having a sleep summit shows that this industry is going in the right direction. For years, there's a reason, and a legitimate reason, why customers didn't like us. Okay? It's because of the way we treated them and the way we behaved. But it's leaders like you, Charlie, and things that are happening at Miskelly's where we are refocusing our energies to be more about our guest. And as a result of that, we are changing the industry. And we're going to change this whole concept of mattresses, because it's not going to be about the mattress. It's going to be about the way people sleep.
One guest at a time, right?
One guest at a time.
One memory maker at a time.
I like it.
Yeah, one guest at a time. Thank you so much for being here with us, for taking the time. That is Dr. V. You can hear, feel, sense the passion from this man, still going strong after 38 years of selling sleep with purpose. I love it, Dr. V. You've imparted so much wisdom with us. And so check us out here from Stories from the River, wherever you listen to your podcast, from Apple Podcasts, Google, Amazon, YouTube, any of the major podcast apps, players. And we launch these episodes every Wednesday and try to bring you the best content that we can. And this is a special guest. He's not a memory maker, but he's an honorary memory maker. He's made a lot of memories, furnished life's best memories for us. And thank you so much again for being here.
Thank you, Charlie.